Welcome. This is over circle graphs. So in this survey, the table below shows the results of asking 200 people their favorite flavor of pie. What percent of the survey is apple? So apple is right, whoops, calligraphy pen. Apple is right here. So let's think about a percent bar, which we learned previously in our unit. In a percent bar, this is 100%. We don't know the percentage of those who selected Apple. We know 25 people selected Apple out of 200 people. So we know it's going to be a really, really small percentage right here. Very tiny small percentage. So what is the relationship between 200 to 100? Divide by 2. Divide by 2. So 25 divided by 2 is 12.5%. That means 12.5% selected Apple in this survey. So in the circle graph, the table below, so today let's look at our do now. The table shows the number of each type of performances at an arena. So in this one, 14 were musicians, 26 were sports event, 4 were comedians, 6 were dancers. So if you add all this up, the total would be 50. So summarize the data using the mode. Mode is most repeated. Most people selected sports event, so that is the mode. Now it is that create a percent bar graph to represent the survey data. So let's find the percentage. So 14 people selected musicians. There were 14 musicians out of 50 performances. What is the relationship to 100% times 2, 2,800, or 28%? 26 out of the 50 performances were sports event. What is the relationship from 50 to 100% times 2? That would be 52%. 4 out of 50 was times 2 is relationship, so it's 800, or 8% were comedians. And last but not least, 6 out of 50 times 2, 1,200, or 12%. So now we can create a percent bar to represent the survey data. So 28% of this 100% are musicians. So let's shade in about 28%. It goes right here. So let's say this represents musician. I'm going to use a different pen color. So 52% were sports events. So this represents 28%, 52% more. Where would this stop at if it's 52% more? Let's see, 28 plus 52% more. It would stop. So 52% more is this, which is a little more than half, and that's sports events. Let's use a different pen color. Comedians, 8%. So 8% more would be 60%. 8% more. So right now we're at 70. 8% more would be right here. That would be comedian, 8%. And then whatever's left, the answers take up the last 12%. So together, this percent bar adds up to 100%. You're going to notice that percent bar is just like a circle graph, which we're about to study. Only different, instead of a bar, you're going to have a circle. The 28% were musicians, 52% were sports event, 8% were comedies, and 12% were dancers. So in here, we have a survey. We're going to survey 20 random students about their favorite fast food restaurant. So let's just say 3, 5, 2, 10. That's, oh, no. Let's say 8, and 8, and 2 again. So we surveyed 20 students. 3 students out of 20 chose McDonald's. 5 out of 20 chose McDonald's. Wendy's. 2 out of 20 students chose Chipotle. 8 out of 20 students chose Sonics, and 2 out of 20 students chose Whataburger. What percent is that? Again, a percent builds up How do you build 20 to 100% times 5? So that would be 15%. Those 1500, which is the same as saying 15% or 1500s. For this one, how do you build the relationship from 20 to 100 times 5 is 2500, 25% or 2500s? How do you build 2/20th to 100 times 5? That's 1000, 10%, 1000s. How do you build 8/20th to 100 times 5 times 5? That's 4000, 40%, 4000s. And last but not least, I think this is the same as this one, so we'll just recopy it. So now that we know the percentage of selected, so the mode, what is the mode here? The mode is Sonics. I mean, most people selected Sonics as their favorite go-to fast food restaurant. The least one were Chipotle and Whataburger. Or What a Burger. Sorry, I mispronounced it. No, I always thought it was Whataburger. So you will need to select 5 colors, 1 color per restaurant choice. So we start with a circle. So you're starting with a circle such as this. In a circle, and then the next thing you need to do, is you need to find the center of the circle and draw a dot there. And then you're going to be marking the benchmark percent. The benchmark percent is 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%. I mean, if I shade in half of this, 50% would be down here. So as you can know, I already noted the benchmark percent. And then this is up to you. Would you like to count by ones? Some people have done that in the past. Would you like to count by 5s or 10s? It's up to you. I would like to count by 5, so that's what I'm doing on here. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. And now I'm going to label it as such. So now that I have this, and then the next thing you need to do is we need to mark our first line. So draw a radius from the center to 0%. So let's go back to our survey. Our McDonald's was selected by 15%. So 15% would be right here. So let's label this McDonald 15%. So McDonald represents that. Let's use a different pen color. Wendy's was selected by 25%. Would that go right here? No, it would not, because if you put 25% here, that only from here to here, that's only 10%. It's 25% more. So what is 25% more? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. That's from 15% to 40. It ranges from 15% to 40%. So that's Wendy's, which is 25% more, which is about a quarter, 1/4 of the circle graph. The next one was Chipotle represented 10%. 10% more, that is. 10% more. So 10% more would be right here. So it's Chipotle 10% more. Do not go back here, because I have seen this in the past, where kids divide it or split up the McDonald's into 2 parts. Next one was Sonic's at 40% more. I think I ran out of color. Oh, let's see. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. So it stops right here. It ranged from 50% to 90%. This represents Sonic's, which is 40%. As you can tell, it takes up almost half of the circle graph, but a little less than half. And the last restaurant was Whataburger. Let's use Whataburger, which was 10%. So this represents a circle graph. It started at 0% to 100%. The only difference from this circle graph and a percent bar is one is rectangular in nature and this is circular in nature. So if I ask you to compare the ratio of, let's use a McDonald's to Wendy's, compare this, how would you say that? McDonald's represents 15%, while Wendy represents 25%. I could write this ratio as in fraction form. I could write this ratio with colon. I can write this ratio as 15 to 25. However, all of these ratios can be simplified. So let's go back to our fractional form. Could I simplify them? Yes, I can divide both numbers by 5. I'm drawing the 1, so dividing big 1, I'm dividing both numbers by 5, so I get 3/5. So there's a 3 to 5 comparison between McDonald's and Wendy's. So McDonald's is 3/5 of the size, a magnitude of Wendy's. So now that we kind of understand how to make it, what if you are now given a circle graph? Can you look at the circle graph, and from that, can you answer questions about it? So if this is Kara's budget. She spends 50% of her money on rent. That's half of her money on rent. 20% on food, 50% on clothing, 10% on entertainment, and 5% for other. If Kara's budget is $200, how much would you spend on food? Let's draw a percent bar. So her budget, that's all, is $200. How much will she spend on food? So food, if Kara's budget is food, $200, how much you spend on food? So that's food is represented 20% out of 100% of her budget. So we're going to find the dollar amount she spends on food. What is the relationship between 100 to 200 times 2? So she spends about $40 on food. If Kara's budget now is $260, oh, she must have gotten a raise or something. How much will you spend on entertainment? 10% is spent on entertainment out of 100%. So there's many ways you could do this. I'm going to do it. We could do relationship from 100 to 260. Well, what about this? Up and down. How do you turn 100 to 10? Divide by 10. Divide by 10. So that's $26 is spent on entertainment if she has a $260. If Kara's budget is $300, whoa, she's making a lot of money now. How much more would she spend on clothing than entertainment? So let's go to clothing, entertainment. Clothing and entertainment. She spends 5% more on clothing than entertainment. So I'm going to put 5% more here. That's how much more she spends on clothing than entertainment. She spends 5% more on clothing and entertainment. So what is the relationship between 100% to 300? Times 3. Times 3. So she spends $15 more on clothing and entertainment. This is one way you could have done it. I've seen other kids do it this way. They first figure out how much she spends on clothing and entertainment. So her budget was $300. Clothing, she spent 15% of her budget out of 100% on clothing. Entertainment is 10% of her budget out of 100%. So the relationship is times 3. So she spends $45 on clothing out of $300. And for this one, she spends $30 on entertainment. How much more is clothing than entertainment? By $15 more. That's one way to do it. I personally think it's faster to figure out how much more percentage is clothing than entertainment by 5%. Let's do a really, really tough one now. Here is my original question, a harder question. So in this original question is, you know what? I'm going to type it up. If Kara spends $20 on let's say $30 on food, what is her total budget? That's a tougher one. So let's make a percent bar. So here's a percent bar. Let's do it again. So she spends $30 on food. What is her total budget? Do we know this amount, the total budget? We know she spends $30. And what percent is food? 20%. So 20% of her budget is spent on food, which is $30. So what is the relationship between 20 to 100? Times 5, times 5. So she spends, her total budget is $150. So now let's go to Taco Cabana, one of my favorite places for breakfast. So these are the favorite meat fillings. People love eating lengua, or tongue. Some people like shrimp, fajitas, shredded chicken, and marinated pork. A total of 400 customers were surveyed. That's everybody, which is 100%. That means how many customers chose fajitas? Fajitas were selected by 28%. So what's the relationship from 100% to 400%? Times 4. So 28 times 4 is 112 people out of 400 people would have selected fajitas. Let's try another survey. There, a total of 350 people were surveyed out of 100%. That's everybody was surveyed. So what percent chose shredded chicken? 8% chose shredded chicken. So can 100 go into 350? Not easily. Can 100 go into 8? No. Well, could I simplify this? Yes, I can. I can simplify to 4 and 50. Can 50 go to 350? Yes, times 7. Times 7. That means the relationship is times 7. That means 28 out of 350 people would have selected shredded chicken. A total of 450 customer survey. How many more customers chose fajitas and marinated pork? So how many more customers chose fajitas than marinated pork? 8% more people like fajitas than marinated pork. So we'll put 8% right here out of 100%. 8% more. Can 100 go to 450? No. Can 100 go to 8? No. Let's break this down to 4 and 50. Now, how many 50s go in 450? Times 9. Times 9. That means 36 more customers chose fajitas than marinated pork. What if the next question is this, a tougher question? Let me type it up. Here's a tougher question. Let's say 30 people selected tongue. Oh, that's hilarious. 30 people selected tongue. What is the total number of customers? So we are draw a percent bar. This time you are given the part. Can you find the whole? We don't know the total number of customers. What percent chose tongue? 40%. 30 people. So in this one, can 40 go in 30? No. Can 40 go in 100? No. We're going to simplify this to 20 out of 50. Can 20 go in 30? No. Let's simplify this again. I'm going to divide by 10. Whoops. I divide by 10. Oh, no, let's do 10 and 25. Let's divide by 2. Can 10 go into 30 now? Or, let's stop. Yes, it can. What's the relationship from 10 to 30? Times 3. Times 3. So 75 customers were at the place. And out of those 75 customers, 30 would have selected tongue. So this is the relationship showing circle graph, part to part and part to whole.